Yo, whoa. It's your boy Go in the building. If you're new to the channel, please hit the like, share, comment, subscribe, turn your post notifications. Follow the boy Go on social media platforms. When I do go live, when I do post. Hey man, straight like this, man. The OKC coach messing up, bro. The OKC coach is he's not doing his job. He's not doing what he's supposed to do. And that's why they lost the game tonight, man. You know what I mean? You gotta start Caruso, bro. Caruso is a starter. Not starting him is a crime. I feel like he deserved to be in the starting rotation. Please hit that like button. Please hit that sub button. It don't cost you anything to do so. Hit that like, please, and that sub, man. It don't cost a dime. You know what I'm saying? Caruso need to be in the starting rotation. The OKC coach is fucking up, man. But yeah, man, the OKC coach is fucking up, bro.
Thank you. And now is Joshua someone else you have? Yeah, it's cute.
Too much makeup.
Up over here. Your name
Kevin, 32.
Kevin, why'd you end up popping?
I ain't gonna lie. I would bypass the makeup because everything else is like, well, everything else look good. I'll bypass the makeup. Makeup and the weed, I'll bypass all that. She look good everywhere else.
Ultimately, it came down to the nose ring. Simone saying everything.
Okay. I can take a note now. Thank you. All right, now he's
Now both of y'all pop because of the nose ring and makeup. Bro, she look good. She look good. If you built like her, I ain't looking at no makeup. But I ain't looking at no nose piercing. In my opinion, I ain't looking at neither one. Cause she look good everywhere else, bro. Like she a diamond.
that's your type. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, we've got four guys left. Go ahead and ask me a question. What's the biggest deal breaker in a relationship? Okay. Your name and age, and what's the biggest deal breaker in a relationship?
Brandon, 38. The biggest deal breaker in a relationship for me, being selfish. Someone who's not really understanding, and someone who's not strong enough to stand up, to like their family if they have like some sort of issue or whatnot. So other than that, see other things, but it's not time.
Your name and age, and what's the biggest deal breaker in a relationship?
How you doing? David, 39. Um, Deal breaker to me is like courtesy. I mean, if you don't let me know what it is, I can adjust. It's not that I'm an adjuster or anything like that, but if you know what you want, you're better able to maneuver, you know?
Yeah. Your name and age, and what is the biggest deal breaker in a relationship?
Kids, 36. My biggest deal breaker is not being able to take accountability. Um, knowing your own wrongs and being able to speak up on it.
Name and age, and what is your biggest deal breaker in a relationship?
Which is always black carbon shoe. My biggest deal breaker is somebody that's not personal. I like I like somebody that's it's vibe the line from extrovert, introvert. Like somebody that's fun. Somebody that's personal that I can have fun with. Mm-hmm. If you're giggling, so
All right, so let me go ahead and hand you a pick. There you go, and go ahead and pop my balloon. Sorry. Okay, so why was your balloon unpopped?
she's pretty. Nice one.
DePaul Gasol up in this thing, man.
I'm just
Much love to DePaul Gasol, man. The big dog.
the dancer was great. Yeah.
Much love to DePaul Gasol.
Okay, let's move back to the side. All right, so why'd you end up popping your balloon?
Person, but it's just like you are like you gorgeous. I see you and say all my partners are like that. It's just like with me, I'm more like I like natural. It's just like I don't want to be BBL. Like sometimes I want to be real natural. You got one of but it's like you some what do you want? The wine say you some fun, but it's just like
Yeah.
you look good.
Um,
Don't take it for nobody.
Thank you. Now, is he someone that's your type? No. And why not? He got a little sass to him, the way he moving, and you know,
You got to see me in person. Yeah.
I'm seeing you in person, but he cool.
It's not what you think.
It's not what you think. They pop back here. All right, why did you pop in your room?
It's just a little patient. Seattle, I'm in New York.
I live in Arizona.
Oh,
So a
okay.
little closer.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's it's just a distance thing for me. But you're very gorgeous.
Thank you.
Nice, well put together.
Thank you.
Ah, damn. That thing thumping.
Is he someone that's your type? No, but
Okay,
you're
see?
put together. You're very attractive. I just like dark skinned guys.
The song said, what team I think will win the finals? OKC.
I'm gorgeous. Like chicken for us, you adventure. Thinking about the clouds.
I got OKC winning the finals. They gotta get Caruso in the game, man. Caruso got championship DNA. He need to be starting, bro.
Oh, very well. I appreciate it. Thank
Yeah. What's going on right here? So, any questions you guys may have for one another?
I guess I wasn't gonna ask you like that's
Do I? You're making him laugh. Now I'm making him laugh out his jaw.
okay.
Or we have a question for him as well. You can throw it out. Okay. Okay, I have a question. I do have a son. He's 3 years old. Is that okay, or do you date women with children, or do you not?
So, how old are you again?
I'm 33.
Okay, I don't really. The kid is not really the issue.
Okay.
I guess more so on how you prioritize. I mean, I know he'll come first.
Absolutely.
But would you make time for that potential?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Maybe comes first, but I still do have a lot of love to give and have a lot of time to love that person that's meant for me.
Okay. Do you have like a synopsis on your last relationship? How did that kind of end?
Oh my goodness. My last relationship. Right. It was not. No, it was a great relationship. It's just his work was very demanding, and we just couldn't spend too much time together. But it was a mutual agreement. He was a great guy. Yeah. All right, let me bring you up here. Come on, let's all head up here. All right. Do you guys have a final question for one another? If you don't, that's fine.
I mean, I know everybody asks that cliche question about distance and everything like that, but I know what I came on here for. You know what I'm saying? Of course, beauty first, but I mean, you know, you're soft spoken. I like that.
Thank you.
You know, you come across as very soft. I have no more questions.
I do have a question. So, what was your biggest lesson that you learned in your last relationship, and how do you plan on importing that into your new relationship?
I would say not pour 100% from the beginning in a relationship.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry to say that, but
Right.
I've always been that person that has been very personable and has always just looked at love as what it is. Like I can see you physically, I can hear you verbally, you know, take you in mentally. I might fall in love with you tomorrow. I mean, I'm romantic, so
Yeah.
but I would have to say I'm not against it. You know, I am still for love, but I don't think that I would dive in first quarter. You understand? I would like to know who I'm dealing with, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So I'm gonna ask my final question then. Is it a yes for you for her?
Yes, yes, and yes, yes.
All right. And is it a yes for you for him?
It's a yes for me.
We got a match. I'll take the mic. All right, you guys, go on up. Come on, get your girl. Make some noise for them, guys. Okay, let's bring out our next single lady. Hello, welcome in. What's your name?
My name's Angelique.
Angelique, how old are you?
I'm 32.
Angel
And
what?
do you do?
I'm a renal social worker.
Angel what? Never mind.
Okay. And what are some things you like to do for fun?
I like to go out to different restaurants, try new food. I like to
She's
do
extra
yoga.
short.
I
She's
like
fun
to go
size.
out, dance, have a good time.
And what
She's fun size with double D's. I will go crazy.
are you looking for in a man?
I'm looking for someone who's ambitious. I'm looking for someone who's confident. That's basically it.
Okay, and
You
what's
can
some
go
of your
wild with
deal breakers?
that.
Deal breakers are someone who has dirty nails, someone who is insecure,
Fun size double D's
someone
look
who
a
doesn't
double
like to
dog.
smile.
I'll go crazy.
Basically
Alright, so we did get some popping. Look, let's go on over there and see why they ended up popping.
Okay.
Your name and age.
Y'all smoking.
35.
And Joshua, why did you end up popping your
She just look a little bit older than me than 32. Personally, you know what I'm saying? She's a nice looking woman. She's a little older than 32 to me.
Now is Joshua someone that's your type?
No,
And why not?
I don't like his outfit.
Thank you. Let's go down over here. Your name and age.
Kevin, 32.
And Kevin, why did you end up popping your boy?
Ultimately, it just came down to the outfit. Colors flashing. That's all.
Okay.
Like y'all's colors are flashing or her?
Our colors are flashing. Very beautiful.
Thank you.
Now is he someone that's your type?
He's handsome. Yeah.
Let's go on over here. Your name and age.
McCann's 36.
And Mackenzie, why did you end up popping your boy?
The physical attraction is not there. Probably shorter than what I'm looking for. But that's it.
How tall are you?
4'11".
And is he someone that's your type?
No.
And why not?
Just a facial face. Not attracted to it.
Thank you. Let's go here. Your name and age.
Javon, everybody call me Shoe. That's H Party Bus.
And how old are you?
31.
And why did you end up popping your balloon?
Real fun size. Nah, she fine. She like auntie. You know, like, she just look, you know.
I mean, you looking at me like you like me. Oh, okay.
But it's a difference from, you know, you just auntie. I mean, I don't want to take it.
Oh, okay.
That's fine. But you know,
Is he someone that's your type?
He okay. Mhm. Okay.
Tell him back. All right. So your name and age.
Brandon, 38.
Brandon, why did you end up popping your balloon?
Just initial shots, but beautiful though. But that's all. Nothing else.
All right. And now, is he someone that's your type?
No,
And why not?
just a little bit older.
Thank you.
But he's handsome.
All right. Well, that's all of the balloons popped, unfortunately. But thank you so much for coming
Thank you.
on. Let's give it up for her, guys.
Hey, man.
Okay, let's go ahead and bring out our next single lady. Hello, welcome in. What's your name?
Brianna.
Brianna, how old are you?
I'm 32.
And what do you do?
I work in HR and I have a multimedia brand that focuses on event planning.
Yes. And what are some things that you do for fun?
I like to travel.
I ain't trying to fall asleep, man. I can't watch that.
Creepiest workplace accidents. Make sure they do.
I can't watch that, seriously. Oh.
Okay, so right now, guys,
The truck right now, man.
What's going on, J&J? What's going on, J&J family? It's your girl Melissa back again with another.
You guys, right now we are eating this and this place, and then I get to sit here and listen.
I'm gonna get a salad over here, but then I'm gonna get Venezuelan treats, desserts.
Yes,
So like cheese sauce,
it's like it's like
potato ball.
it's like a market.
Yeah, it's like a farmer's market. So here is my food. This salad with Mediterranean steak.
What kind of protein is that?
Avocado is protein, steak is protein, cucumbers, there's apples in here. Like this.
Oh my God, you would either this. If you would do this. This is buffalo chicken salad. We don't know. You guys see this? Are we ready to clean up the foods and confuse right now? We're going to just completely we are going to get to listen to our Venezuelan food. Guys, this is RJ family. We are double our food. As you guys see, this is lovely. I hope it's not place.
You guys saw. Alright, guys, we're finally back home. And I brought, these doggies and cupcakes. So we're about to go give it to them right now. You want some cupcakes? You did last time? Okay, so this. Okay, how about you take the peanut butter and here. Look, they took it out of my hand. He's already done. Keep throwing it in your food.
Bro, you right, just you smart. That's why you're fat right
That's
now.
why you're so big. No. That was your sister. Yeah, you eat the crumb. You already had two cupcakes, buddy. All right, let's go.
Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, JJ family, my hair's looking a little wild right now. I just got home, gave the dog some cupcakes, and then tonight, Jalissa and I will be going to Dave and Buster's with Aries and them. Right now, I don't know what we're gonna get into right now. We just got home not too long ago. I think we're gonna chill for a little bit, and then we'll pick up the video once we do something.
All right, you guys. Right now, we are on our way to In-N-Out. Let's go. We are at In-N-Out. Jaden just ordered his food. I literally stuttered on my words, guys. Just finished looking at water. Crushed it. Licking my lips. Yeah. We are just waiting for the food. Look at this loin. Goodness. I'm gonna be in trouble.
JJ family, she's in trouble.
That was an accident. I was told I was
JJ
licking my
family,
lips.
she's in trouble.
I was licking my lips. And then I said, Jaden. It's pretty. Do you love me?
Kiss them.
No, I don't want to kiss you.
So I gotta kiss my foot when we get it. See, ain't my fresh fry already.
We just got home, and here is Jaden about to take his first bite. Ooh, rate it. Rate that like 1 out of 10. 10 out of 10, J&J family. He literally just rated that bite 10 out of 10. But while you go eat that, I'm about to go to the I gotta pee. Okay, I gotta go. So, I'm just gonna come up here, you guys, because I really just gotta go to the bathroom real quick. Okay, we're actually coming upstairs right now. Just listen because, well, we all know Jaden. Okay, listen here, Jaden. We have all been together for the past 4 years. So with that being said, we all know Jaden. Like, we already know his routine. As soon as he's finished eating, look where he has. Oh, camera right here, and then he's playing the game, you guys. I'm gonna tell you the fake cut his hair. Guys, I don't know if you guys know this, but he cut his hair about a month and a half ago, and he still has his hair in a bag. He doesn't know that I know where it is. He's trying to like hide it. So he put it away, thinking that I would not know where it is. Guess what? I know where it is. So I'm actually gonna cut his hair. He already has hair that's already been cut. Let's go see the hair right now. Actually, I'm extra quiet so he doesn't want to hear us. This is the hair. What I'm gonna do is go set up the camera, take some of this that feels so much. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut his hair. Basically, just gonna cut this out. So now I'm gonna go see what he's up and I'm gonna go find some scissors. We're just gonna wait for him to go upstairs and finish eating. Let's go. Just wait for him to finish. So let's just go.
Years later.
Yo, line control. 14, 3 teams, control. 3 seconds. Stay alive. Back. I'm letting you go. What I mean?
We were born on the battlefield and answered the call when America needed us most. From the original Freedom Machine came the original SUV. The Jeep brand has always stood for American freedom. Now we're standing with you with employee present. Back then, it felt like a nothing job, the kind people took when they needed to. I used to work the night shift at a small gas station tucked into a forgotten stretch of highway just outside Hollow Creek, Tennessee. If you blinked, you'd miss it. One lone building, battered pumps, and a flickering sign that hadn't lit up right since the early 2000s. Back then, it felt like a nothing job, the kind people took when they needed to pay off bills or disappeared for a while. For me, it was both. I'd moved out there 2 years ago after dropping out of community college, dragging a suitcase and a trail of bad decisions. My cousin Daryl ran the place, and he didn't ask questions, just handed me the keys and said, "Keep the drawer balanced, don't fall asleep on the job, and if someone pulls a knife, just give them the cash." Typical Tennessee hospitality. The store itself had a strange layout, main floor with snacks, smokes, and a couple of fridges humming against the back wall. There was one camera over the counter and one more pointing at the basement stairs, which was where we kept excess stock. No employee bathroom, just an outhouse around back. The basement always creeped me out. It wasn't finished, just poured concrete and exposed beams, and it smelled like mold and motor oil. It had those old metal shelves that rattle when you walk past them, even if you're careful. I never liked going down there, especially not at night. But that night, I didn't have a choice. It was early February. cold enough that even the rats probably thought twice before crawling out of wherever they lived. Business had been dead all evening, just a couple regulars. One guy buying scratch-offs, another topping off a rusted-out pickup and talking about how the government was controlling birds. Same old. I clocked in at 8 p.m., and by 11 p.m., I was watching the minutes crawl toward midnight. I was behind the counter scrolling through my phone when I noticed we were almost out of Ridgefield BBQ chips. That sounds dumb, but it mattered. Those chips were weirdly popular with our late-night crowd. I sighed and grabbed the key to the basement padlock. "Daryl, if you're listening," I muttered to no one, "one day you're going to spring for a normal storage room." I grabbed the flashlight off the hook. It was one of those heavy mag lights, more of a weapon than a light, and headed down. Halfway down the stairs, I heard it, a metallic clatter, like something hitting the floor and rolling. It came from the far side of the basement. My heart rate jumped, but I told myself it was just a rat knocking over a can or something. I kept going. Then I heard footsteps, not scurrying, not shuffling, deliberate, human, coming closer. I froze. I didn't even breathe. The sound stopped just beyond the shelves. The air felt colder down there than usual, like it had dropped 10 degrees in a second. I backed up slowly, one step at a time, until I was near the stairs. I turned to run, and I swear to God, something moved in the corner of my eye. I sprinted up the stairs two at a time, slammed the door shut, and locked it. My hands were shaking so hard I dropped the flashlight. When I made it back behind the counter, I sat there for a second, chest heaving. Then I remembered the security monitor. I flicked it to the basement cam. There he was, standing right at the bottom of the stairs, looking directly up at the camera. He hadn't followed me up, just stood there, still, perfectly still. He looked like he could have been anybody. Clean clothes, maybe late 30s, short brown hair, not dirty or wild-eyed like some of the meth heads that sometimes drifted in from the woods. But his eyes, they were wide, and there was something hollow in them, and he was smiling. I called Daryl, didn't even bother with pleasantries. "There's a guy in the basement." Pause. Then, "What guy?" "Some dude. He's just standing there smiling at the damn camera. He didn't come through the store. He's in the basement, Daryl." It took him a second to respond. His voice had that edge to it, confused but trying to stay calm. "Okay. Lock the front door. Stay inside. Don't go back down. I'm coming. You want me to call the cops?" "Not yet. Just wait." I didn't like that, not one bit. But I did what he said. Locked the front, stayed by the register, eyes glued to the monitor. The guy didn't move for about 3 minutes, then, like he remembered something, he turned and walked out of frame. Gone. Daryl showed up about 12 minutes later in his beat-up Bronco. He stepped out holding his grandfather's old shotgun. I let him in, and he didn't waste time talking, just headed straight for the basement. "You're not going down there alone," I said. He looked at me, hesitated, then nodded. "All right, stay close." We crept down the stairs, the beam of his flashlight cutting through the dark. Nothing moved. The shelves were still. No sound except the slow creak of our footsteps. And no one was there. "Maybe it was just a camera glitch," Daryl offered as we climbed back up. "Don't insult me," I snapped. "You saw my face on the phone. I was scared out of my damn mind." He didn't say anything. I didn't sleep after my shift. Kept the lights on in my trailer and replayed it all in my head. The guy had been real. I knew it. The camera didn't glitch. The look in his eyes wasn't a trick of the light. The next night I came in a little early, partly to prove I wasn't crazy. I reviewed the previous night's footage. From around 11:09 p.m. to 11:14 p.m., the basement camera feed went fuzzy, distorted, just static. Then it came back, and the man was gone. That wasn't a glitch. That was tampering. A week passed. No more sightings. I was starting to doubt myself until another employee, Lexi, who covered weekends, came in pale as a ghost for her Monday morning shift. "You left the basement door unlocked," she said. "No, I didn't. It was open, light was on." 2 days later, I came in for my shift and found a note taped to the inside of the counter. "You came close." That's all it said. Daryl reviewed the security footage. There was a 3-minute gap between 3:02 and 3:05 a.m., where the front camera cut out. Someone had turned the lens toward the ceiling. When it came back, the note was there. I started carrying a pocket knife. A month later, Daryl finally called the cops after Lexi found scratches on the basement door from the inside. Deep ones, like fingernails dragged down the wood. Sheriff Renner came out. Nice enough guy, but he didn't take it seriously. Said it was probably local kids messing around. Daryl didn't push. I did. "Why didn't you want me to call the cops the first time?" He wouldn't look at me. I just thought maybe it was someone I knew, someone from back before the store shut down. That didn't sit right with me, and it sat even worse when I talked to a retired employee who used to work there in the early 2000s. She told me about a man who went missing in the area, last seen buying chips and smokes from that gas station. Security footage had shown him going down into the basement with the owner at the time. He never came back up. That owner, Daryl's uncle, he died 10 years ago. Heart attack. After that, I quit. Packed my stuff and left Hollow Creek. Haven't looked back. But sometimes I dream about that smile, the eyes. Sometimes I wonder if there's still someone down in that basement. Not living, not entirely dead. Just waiting, watching, and smiling. I never used to be one of those people who thought about worst case scenarios. You know, the kind of overthinkers who kept pepper spray on their keychains or studied self-defense videos late at night. I used to think that if you weren't actively looking for trouble, you probably wouldn't find it. I don't think that anymore. It was March of last year, and I had just spent spring break visiting my aunt and uncle in a quiet little town called Maple Hollow, Pennsylvania. It's one of those places that still has a main street with an ice cream parlor, a post office run by a woman named Ruth, and an old movie theater with a marquee that hadn't changed in 6 years. My cousin Maddie was getting married in June, and spring break was my only real chance to spend time with her before the wedding chaos started. We had a great week: movies, antique shops, hiking the ridge trails behind the house. But after 7 days, I had to head back to Birmingham, Alabama, where I was in the middle of my sophomore year at UAB. I'm not great with goodbyes, so I left early on Saturday morning without much fanfare. Just a hug from my aunt, a sleepy wave from Maddie, and a few slices of banana bread wrapped in foil. I figured I'd get some coffee in Harrisburg, stop at my friend Ryan's place near Winston-Salem for a nap, and make it home in one long, exhausting drive. And because I was 20 years old and thought I was invincible, I brought my dog Milo with me, loaded up a few Red Bulls, and told myself I'd power through the whole trip. Milo was a 95-pound golden retriever poodle mix, big, shaggy, and so gentle it was kind of embarrassing. The kind of dog who'd whimper if a squirrel looked at him wrong. But I loved him. He always made road trips feel less lonely. By the time I hit Southern Virginia, it was well after 1 a.m. I'd been driving for close to 11 hours, only stopping once to let Milo out and top off my tank somewhere outside Roanoke. I was on a wide, dark stretch of Route 29. No lights, no exits, just trees and more trees and that kind of rural silence that makes your ears buzz. My gas light flicked on. I swore under my breath. "All right, bud," I said to Milo, who was sprawled across the back seat like royalty. "Looks like we're taking the next exit." About 5 minutes later, I saw the familiar green glow of a highway sign. Idle Creek, 1 mile. I'd never heard of it, but I didn't have much of a choice. The exit ramp led onto a narrow road with no name, and a minute later, I spotted a small gas station on the left. It was the kind of place that looked like it had opened in the 70s and never upgraded. One lone canopy over 2 pumps, a dark convenience store behind it, and a flickering LED sign that said gas. diesel, ice. There were no other cars, no music, no hum of traffic, just my headlights cutting across the empty lot and the buzzing overhead light above pump 2. Still, the pumps were lit, so I pulled in and stopped the engine. Milo sat up immediately. His ears perked. Just gas, buddy. Chill. I got out, swiped my card at the pump, and started filling the tank. That's when I noticed the building behind the station. It wasn't attached to the convenience store. It was maybe 50 feet back, closer to the woods. A small, windowless shack with a rusted metal roof and a single bulb over the door. It was on. I don't know why that detail stuck with me, but it did. It felt wrong somehow, like someone had been waiting. Milo started growling, a low, rattling noise I'd never heard from him before. Hey, it's okay. I crouched next to the open car door and put a hand on his head, but he didn't take his eyes off the shack. Just tired. We're all tired. The pump clicked off. I stood to return the nozzle, and that's when I heard the engines. Multiple ones. 2 dark SUVs and a boxy white van turned into the lot from the road behind me. No headlights, no music, just the soft rumble of 6-cylinder engines. I froze. I wasn't even sure why at first. Maybe it was the way they came in so slowly, like they were familiar with the layout, like they'd done this before. They parked in a semicircle near the shack. Doors opened. Men got out. A lot of them. I counted at least 10. They didn't say anything, just stretched, looked around, laughed quietly among themselves. A few of them wore heavy coats despite the mild weather. One guy had a walkie clipped to his belt and something bulky under his jacket that looked suspiciously like a sidearm. I was standing next to my car with the gas nozzle in hand, trying not to move. Then Milo growled again, louder this time. Several of the men turned to look at me. One of them smiled, not in a friendly way, in that deliberate, slow kind of smile that feels like a threat. My heart thudded. I shoved the nozzle back into the pump, jumped into the driver's seat, and locked the doors in one motion. They didn't follow, not right away, but they kept looking. I started the car, trying to breathe through the fear boiling in my chest. It's okay, Milo, we're leaving. Then I saw them start to move, not toward me, toward the shack, one by one, slipping behind it and disappearing from sight. No words, no flashlights, just shadows folding into more shadows, all except one. The smiling man stayed near the SUV, watching me. My phone was on 3%. No signal, of course. I reversed too fast, tires crunching over gravel, and peeled out of the lot with Milo whining in the back seat. I didn't stop again until I reached a diner with a lit parking lot 40 miles down the highway. My hands were shaking so bad I couldn't hold my coffee. The waitress, an older woman with kind eyes, asked if I was okay. I told her I was just tired. She didn't press. I slept in the booth with Milo's head on my lap. 3 weeks later, I was scrolling through local news while waiting for class to start. An article caught my eye. Human remains found in abandoned building outside Idle Creek. The photo was grainy, but I recognized it. The shack. They found 5 bodies in shallow pits beneath the floor, all male, none identified. The gas station had been closed for years. I stared at the screen for a long time, trying to ignore the nausea curling in my stomach. I don't know what I stumbled into that night. A meeting? A drop site? Something worse? I never told my parents, never reported it. What could I say? But I bought a satellite phone. I learned how to use pepper spray, and I never, ever stopped for gas in the middle of nowhere. Even now, every time I see a cluster of dark SUVs or a smile that lingers too long, my stomach knots up. I think about the shack, the quiet, the flickering lights, and I think about what would have happened if Milo hadn't growled when he did, if I had taken just a few seconds longer, if I hadn't listened to my fear. It started with instinct, that deep, crawling feeling that something wasn't right, even when logic said everything should be fine. It was nearly midnight when Emma and her boyfriend, Ryan, left Blue Peak Amusement Park, a lesser-known theme park nestled in the heart of northern Georgia. They'd spent the whole day laughing, sunburned, riding roller coasters and eating overpriced churros. Ryan had surprised her with 2-day passes for her birthday, and although they were both exhausted, it had been one of the best weekends in months. They didn't live far, just 2 hours northeast, but they'd never driven this route before. The GPS had rerouted them off the main highway due to a multi-vehicle crash on I-77. They weren't too worried at first. Emma liked taking back roads sometimes, and Ryan had grown up driving on winding, dark roads in the mountains. It felt like a small adventure. But then the roads started to change. The paved highway gave way to uneven 2-lane roads and then narrower still, until they were driving down what looked like a barely used country route with no name on the GPS. There weren't any other cars, just endless pine trees, shoulderless curves, and the dim glow of their high beams. Emma checked the time, 12:47 a.m. They were deep in rural Georgia now. No streetlights, no traffic, no signs of life. She wasn't sure when they'd last seen a house. Ryan's car, a black 2010 Nissan 370Z, was sleek, but old enough to have quirks. The most annoying, a busted fuel gauge. He had to rely on the trip meter to estimate when they were running low. Right now it read 132.6 miles. Shit, he muttered, taking his hand off the wheel to tap the display. What? Emma looked over, concerned. I usually get nervous after 120 miles. We should have filled up before we left town. She frowned. There wasn't a gas station near the park. I know, I just forgot, I guess. He leaned forward, eyes scanning the dark horizon. We should find one soon. Emma's signal was weak, but she managed to pull up a map. There's one called Creekside Fill-Up, 5 minutes away. Perfect, he said, and she watched some of the tension leave his shoulders. But that's where everything began to feel off. As they approached the turnoff for the gas station, something tugged at Emma's nerves. The road veered sharply left, down a steep hill, where the trees pressed in on both sides like a tunnel. The headlights barely penetrated the dark. At the bottom, dim lights glowed, barely functional fluorescents that flickered like dying bugs. The station looked half dead. One old white building, 2 pumps, and not a soul in sight. Ryan slowed the car to a crawl and rolled into the lot. We'll be quick. Emma felt her throat tighten. I don't like this place. He turned to her, brows raised. It's just old. No, it's not that. I don't know. Something feels wrong. Ryan squeezed her hand. Just 2 minutes, I won't even go inside. As soon as he stepped out, that sense of unease intensified. Emma stared at the flickering light overhead. One side of the station's sign had burned out, so it just read, Creekside. There were no cars, no clerk visible inside, no sound except the hum of the car engine and the occasional chirp of cicadas. She locked the doors. Ryan pulled the pump handle. It clumped, like metal grinding metal. Emma stared down the road. It was a dead end. She realized now. The GPS had said the road ended just past the station. There was nowhere to go but back the way they came. And then she saw it. A white SUV crept up behind them from the same road they'd come down. Emma blinked, heart picking up. The SUV slowed, stopped. It didn't pull into the gas station. It just sat there, idling, about 50 feet away, engine running. She tapped on the window. Ryan, he glanced back. What? That car. He turned. Yeah? Why is it just sitting there? Ryan stared for a second. Weird. Emma watched the SUV. The driver's window was down. She could see the silhouette of a man, the glow of a lit cigarette. But he wasn't moving. He was just watching. Emma rolled her window down a crack. The air smelled like oil and hot pavement. The station lights buzzed and popped overhead. Ryan looked uneasy now. Maybe he's just waiting for us to move. The man in the SUV reversed, slowly, deliberately, then stopped again. He rolled forward, closer. That's when Ryan dropped the nozzle. Get ready to go. What? Now, Emma. He yanked the door open and jumped in, twisting the key. The car roared to life. As they turned to pull out of the lot, the SUV suddenly shot forward, cutting across the entrance to block them. Emma screamed. Ryan slammed the brakes and reversed hard, tires screeching. Hold on! He spun the car around, heading back down the narrow road they'd just come in on, swerving to avoid potholes and brush. The SUV followed. Fast. High beams on now, flooding their car with blinding white light. Emma looked back. The man was tailing them close, almost ramming. Why is he doing this? Ryan didn't answer. He was focused, hands tight on the wheel. Come on, there has to be a turn. There, Emma pointed. A tiny gravel road to the left, barely visible. Ryan yanked the wheel, skidding onto it, gravel spitting out behind them. The SUV missed the turn, barreled past, then stopped. Emma gasped. Is he turning around? Ryan drove faster. The road was rough, lined with trees and brush. Suddenly, headlights appeared in front of them. Another vehicle, not the SUV. This one was a dark pickup truck, parked across the road like a barricade. Ryan slammed the brakes again. Number no. The truck didn't move. Emma's heart was pounding so loud she could barely hear herself speak. Ryan, we're trapped. He threw the car in reverse again, trying to backtrack, but the white SUV had returned. It blocked the gravel road behind them. They were boxed in. Ryan reached for his phone. No service. Emma's voice broke. What do we do? The door to the truck opened. A man stepped out. He was tall, wearing a dark flannel shirt, holding something in his hand. A crowbar. He walked slowly, deliberately, toward them. The SUV's driver exited too. Same thing. Crowbar. Same heavy walk. Ryan floored the gas. Straight into the woods. The car tore off the gravel path, bumping and crashing through small trees and shrubs. Emma screamed, shielding her face as branches slapped the windshield. Somehow they found another dirt path. Ryan followed it blindly, not caring where it went. After 5 minutes of chaos, the woods broke open into a small clearing, an old maintenance shed with flickering lights and an ancient-looking vending machine out front. They stopped. The area was still, silent. Emma couldn't breathe. Are they still following? Ryan shook his head, looking back. I think we lost them. They sat in silence, hands shaking, hearts thudding. When they finally found a signal, they called the sheriff's department. It took 45 minutes for deputies to arrive. They told the officer what happened. He nodded grimly, expression hardening. You were on Idle Creek Road. Emma blinked. Yeah, that was the name on the map. The officer exhaled slowly. You're lucky. That stretch has got a reputation. Drug trafficking, robberies, a few disappearances. Locals know to stay away. Emma sat there numb. They were just trying to get gas. Ryan never fixed the fuel gauge after that. He sold the car 2 weeks later, and Emma never drove at night on back roads again. Some instincts aren't paranoia. They're warnings. And some gas stations aren't abandoned. They're bait. It started with the cold. The kind that settles into your bones, even through layers of fabric. The kind that sneaks under your collar and makes your fingers stiff no matter how tightly you tuck them into gloves. It was early December, around 4:15 a.m., the sky still black as tar. The roads were dry but crusted with frost that glittered beneath the streetlights. Mia Harper adjusted the heat in her car again, already halfway through her thermos of gas station coffee. She was heading to the bakery where she worked mornings, had picked up an earlier shift to prep for the holiday orders. The car's fuel light flickered to life with a soft ping. Of course, she muttered, eyeing the gauge. Nearly empty. She exhaled through her nose and rubbed her temple. The nearest station was a few minutes out of the way. but she wasn't about to risk running dry in the dark. She turned onto Highway 14, a mostly empty stretch between the outskirts of Fairview and a cluster of factories near Ridgebend. The station she chose was one she'd only been to once before, months back, in daylight. The sign read, Bennett's Gas and Food. It was small but well lit, perched alone on a curved bend in the highway. A faded Coca-Cola banner flapped weakly against the side of the building. A few older model cars were parked by the pumps, spaced far enough apart that it didn't seem crowded. The kind of place open 24/7, but with just one employee inside who probably hated their job. Mia pulled up to pump 3 and shifted into park. She glanced in her mirrors as a reflex, an old habit from living alone for so many years. There was a beat-up tan van parked diagonally across from her, the kind with paint chips and an old lawnmower logo barely visible on the side. A man stood beside it, put up, smoking a cigarette. Something about him felt still, not relaxed, not shivering in the cold, just standing there, like he was waiting for something. Mia hesitated. Then she exhaled and got out of the car. She wasn't about to let paranoia win over a low gas tank. Hip-hop music was thumping out of tinny overhead speakers mounted beneath the station's awning. The volume was loud, too loud for this time of morning, like whoever was inside had cranked it up to stay awake, or just didn't care. She inserted her card into the pump and selected regular. As she unscrewed the gas cap, she heard it. A voice. Hey, you got a second? Mia turned instinctively. The man from the van had crossed about 20 feet and was standing just outside the yellow line that outlined the pump stations. He looked mid-30s, rough stubble, a heavy canvas jacket stained with something dark on the hem. His voice wasn't aggressive. If anything, it sounded friendly, casual. Mia gave a neutral nod, hand still on the pump handle. What's up? You got jumper cables? He asked, rubbing his hands together. My van's dead. Think the battery's shot. Been trying to find someone since like 3. She shook her head. Sorry, I don't. Just switched cars a few weeks ago. Haven't stocked the trunk yet. Damn, he muttered, glancing back at the van. No worries. Thought I'd ask. Sucks being stuck in this cold. She nodded, her attention already drifting back to the pump. Then he added, You think you could call my girlfriend for me? My phone ran out of minutes last night. Just need her to swing by and give me a jump. Shouldn't take more than a second. Mia hesitated. She glanced toward the station's glass doors. No sign of life inside. No clerk peering out. Okay. What's the number? He recited a number quickly, and Mia keyed it in. The call rang 4 or 5 times, then clicked into a robotic voicemail. The mailbox is full and cannot accept new messages. No greeting, no name. He gave her a second number. Same thing. Guess she still hasn't fixed that voicemail. He chuckled, but it sounded forced. Mia smiled thinly and looked down at her phone. Her gut stirred uneasily. Then came the question. You think you could give me a quick ride up the road? She looked at him sharply. Where? He pointed over her car toward the far end of the bend. There's an old gas station like a mile from here, closed down place. That's where my car actually is. I borrowed a bike to get down here hoping someone would be around. Mia stared at him. I thought your van was your car. He paused. Nah, just resting here because the bike chain snapped. Van's not mine. Belongs to a buddy. The story was starting to fray at the edges. You borrowed a bike from someone at 4 a.m.? In this weather? Yeah, he said quickly. Guy owed me a favor. Just trying to get to work. Mia didn't respond. Her hand hovered near the pump handle. Her heart was starting to pick up pace. He shifted his weight. Look, I know it sounds sketchy, but I'm not trying anything. Just need a lift like a mile. You'd be dropping me at my car, and that's it. Her mind was racing now. Every worst-case scenario surged up. News reports, stories she'd read online, warnings about helping strangers. And yet, he didn't look threatening. He looked tired, cold. But that didn't mean he wasn't dangerous. She made a split-second decision. Hold on. I think I have jumper cables in the back after all. Let me check. He nodded eagerly. Yeah, thanks. You're a lifesaver. Mia turned toward her car, walking briskly. She didn't open the trunk. She got in, locked the door, and started the engine. Then she drove. She didn't look in the rear view, didn't wait to see if he shouted. Her heart was hammering, pulse a dull roar in her ears. Back on the highway, her hands trembled on the steering wheel. There was no car waiting at the other gas station. She was sure of it. That place had been shut down for months, and no one rides a bike down a frost-covered highway at 4 a.m. to find jumper cables. It took 20 minutes for her nerves to settle. She didn't stop again until she was in the parking lot of the bakery, parked beneath bright lights, doors locked, phone in hand. Mia sat for a while, staring through the windshield. She imagined the man standing in the glow of the pumps, watching her tail lights disappear, realizing she wasn't coming back. A part of her still felt guilty, but another part, stronger, clearer, knew she'd dodged something that morning. Maybe not a killer, maybe not a carjacker, but something wasn't right. And sometimes, survival is just about listening to that small voice in the back of your mind, the one that says, leave. She turned off the engine, shifted into park, and walked inside to start her shift. I didn't mind working late. At 18, fresh out of high school and newly employed, I actually preferred night shifts over early mornings. There was something peaceful about finishing work when the world was quiet and the roads were mostly empty. My first job wasn't glamorous. It was a closing shift at a local home goods store in a small town outside of Lexington, Kentucky, but it gave me freedom, a paycheck, and my first taste of independence. The only downside was the commute. It was a 30-minute drive each way, mostly along dark back roads and stretches of highway where your headlights were the only sign of life. No street lamps, no houses, just silence and asphalt. My mom wasn't thrilled about the arrangement, but she trusted me. Still, on my very first day, she gave me one piece of advice I could practically hear in her voice every night when I turned the key in the ignition. Don't let your tank get low. If you need gas, fill up before work, never after, never at night. She meant well. I was petite and looked even younger than I was. If someone were watching, I'd be an easy target. But I thought she was being dramatic. We lived in a safe town. Things like that didn't happen here. I didn't ignore her advice right away. The first couple weeks, I kept a close eye on the gauge. But life gets busy, and routines settle in. I got comfortable, careless. And that's how I ended up at a gas station off Route 60 at 12:16 a.m. on a Thursday. It had been a long shift. One of my coworkers called out sick, so I'd stayed late to help with restocking. By the time I clocked out, my feet ached and I was starving. I just wanted to get home, throw my shoes off, and collapse. I didn't even notice the gas light until I was already on the highway. I muttered under my breath and pulled off the next exit, heading toward a station I'd never used before, Scott's Fuel Depot. It wasn't a chain I recognized, but it was lit, and it was open. That was enough for me. The parking lot was mostly empty, except for one other car parked by the air pump engine off. I figured someone had stopped to take a call or rest. I pulled up to pump number 2, swiped my card, and started fueling. $10, just enough to get home. As I stood there, arms folded against the chill, I had this weird moment, just a flicker, where I felt like I was being watched. But when I glanced around, no one was there. Just the guy behind the counter, tall and lanky with dark hair and a messy beard, watching a small TV behind the register. He didn't even look up. I shook it off. Paranoia, late night nerves, nothing more. The pump clicked off. I grabbed the receipt, screwed the cap back on, and was just reaching for my door handle when a voice crackled from the speaker above the pump. Ma'am, there was an issue with your payment. Can you come inside? The voice was distorted, metallic. I looked up at the speaker, then toward the store. The clerk was suddenly looking right at me, standing still behind the glass with one hand raised slightly, beckoning. Something about it was off. I raised my receipt in the air, confused. I hadn't even gotten into the car yet. How could there be an issue? I pressed the help button. I have my receipt, I said firmly. Payment went through. It printed wrong. I need to run the card again inside. His voice was too quick, flat. No apology, no explanation, just a demand. I stared at him through the window. His eyes were wide, fixed on me. But there was something else in them now. Urgency, tension, not the kind you get when a customer refuses to pay. I stepped back toward the pump and pulled out my phone, opening my banking app. The charge was there. $10. Exactly as expected. I'm good, I said. I'm not coming in. His mouth moved, but the intercom was silent. So I raised my voice. If this is some scam, forget it. I'm not going inside for $10 of gas. I was frustrated, ready to just drive off. I gave him a look and turned toward the driver's side door. That's when I saw his face change. He started banging his hand against the glass, mouthing something fast, urgent. He picked up a piece of paper and a thick black Sharpie, writing something in messy, slanted letters. He slammed it against the window. Back seat. Don't open door. I froze. At first, I didn't even process it. My brain just stopped, like the message wasn't computing. Then I slowly turned my head toward my car. My back door was just slightly ajar. I hadn't left it that way. I didn't think. I ran, sprinted across the lot, threw myself through the gas station door. The clerk hit the lock immediately and yanked me behind the counter. He had a small handgun in his other hand, pointed low, but ready. Stay down, he whispered, eyes fixed on the monitors above the register. The security cameras showed my car, the pumps, the dark corners of the lot. For a few seconds, nothing moved. And then, from the back seat, a figure slowly slid out. A man, tall, hooded, wearing a gray windbreaker and loose sweatpants. He moved like he knew how to stay hidden, low to the ground, quick. He didn't look toward the building, didn't panic, just slipped into the shadows and disappeared around the side of the building. The clerk was already on the phone with 911. I sat on the floor, shaking. It hit me in waves that I'd been seconds away from driving off, from locking myself into a vehicle with a stranger hidden behind me, that I hadn't heard anything, that I hadn't felt anything. The clerk's name was Marcus. He was 24 and had worked night shifts for 2 years. He told me he saw the guy hanging by the dumpster on the cameras before I even pulled in. When I parked, the man had made a beeline for my car. He ducked low, opened the back passenger door, and got inside, leaving it cracked just enough to avoid the click of it shutting. He didn't touch the front doors, didn't grab me. He waited. Marcus said he'd seen people hide in back seats before, but usually it was people sleeping off drugs or trying to steal change. This guy had a look, cold, calculating. The police arrived 10 minutes later. They searched the lot, the nearby woods, even brought dogs out. But it was no good. The guy was gone. There were no fingerprints, nothing stolen, nothing left behind. I didn't sleep that night, or the next. I kept imagining what might have happened if I hadn't stopped, if Marcus hadn't been paying attention. It took me weeks to feel safe driving again. Even now, years later, I still check the back seat before getting in, even in broad daylight. I never get gas at night, and I never let the tank get low. The scariest part? The man didn't want my wallet. He didn't touch my purse. He didn't grab me at the pump. He was waiting for me to trap myself, and I almost did. So here's what I'll tell you. It's not enough to look careful. You have to be careful. Trust that gut feeling. Take the long way home if it means avoiding somewhere sketchy. Listen when someone who loves you tells you how to stay safe, because one night you might not get a second chance. I was never the type to get spooked easily. Not after spending 3 years as a Marine, trained to keep my cool in situations where most people would panic. You learn a lot about fear when you live it day in and day out, whether it's in training or deployed overseas. The whole point was to master it, not let it master you. My name's Jason Miller, and at the time this happened, I was living in Tucson, Arizona. The city's heat was starting to fade into spring, but the nights still carried that dry, sharp chill that makes you pull your jacket tighter. I was juggling 2 jobs to keep the bills paid. The first was a security position at a warehouse on the outskirts of town. Graveyard shift, all quiet and empty aisles except for the occasional rattling forklift or distant radio chatter from the day crew. The second was nights at a 24-hour diner downtown. Both of them exhausting, but I had to keep going. That night started like most others. I clocked out of the diner at around 1:30 a.m. and was giving my coworker Lisa a ride home. We both were bone tired, the kind of tired that sticks to your bones and blurs the edges of your thoughts. On the way, we grabbed some greasy food from a taco stand. We didn't talk much, just the usual small talk. How the shift went, what we had planned for the weekend, the mundane stuff you say when your brain is fried. I dropped Lisa off around 1:50 a.m. at her apartment, said goodbye, and turned toward my own place. I was just about to pull into my driveway when I remembered I was dangerously low on gas. I didn't want to risk it, so I decided to stop at the closest gas station, a small, dingy one just a block away from my apartment. Pulling in, I noticed how eerily empty the lot was. No cars, no people, just the buzzing neon sign and the harsh glare of the overhead lights cutting through the darkness. The kind of silence that feels too quiet, the kind that stretches long shadows across cracked concrete and weeds pushing up through the cracks. I eased my car forward to the pumps, the engine's hum dying down as I shut it off. The place gave off a weird vibe, but I told myself it was just tiredness playing tricks on me. I grabbed my wallet and headed toward the entrance. As I walked, something moved out of the corner of my eye. A figure, tall and lean, slipping quietly along the side of the building, just in the shadows. I froze for a second, blinking against the harsh light. Maybe it was a homeless guy looking for shelter or a junkie scavenging for something. I didn't want to make a big deal out of it. Usually you ignore those shadows. But the way he moved was deliberate, careful, like he didn't want to be seen. I stepped inside the store. The fluorescent lights flickered faintly. The cashier was a kid no older than 18, bored and tired, barely looking up as I grabbed a Monster energy drink from the cooler. $3.50, he mumbled, shoving the coins I handed him into the register. When I pushed the door open to leave, I glanced back. The figure was gone. I told myself it was nothing. Probably wandered off. I walked back to my car, the crunch of gravel under my boots loud in the silence. Then I saw him again, closer, standing just near the rear of my car, hidden mostly by the shadows, but enough in the light for me to see his eyes glinting. A cold, hard stare. My heartbeat quickened, a surge of adrenaline rushing through my veins. I stopped, hands loose at my sides, trying to appear calm. This was no random homeless guy. Something about him didn't add up. Before I could reach my door, I heard footsteps behind me, fast and light but purposeful. I spun around, fists clenched, ready to defend myself. He was there, less than an arm's length away. His breath smelled like stale cigarettes and something metallic. He didn't say a word, just stared. 1,000 thoughts raced through my head. Call out, punch him, run for the door, but I remembered what the Marines drilled into us. Don't let fear control you. Stay calm. Think. Hey, I said, voice steady despite the cold sweat on my skin. You lost or something? His mouth curled into a cruel smile. Got some change? He whispered, voice rough and low. Relief flickered. If all he wanted was money, I could give that and get out of this. I reached into my pocket. Then everything went sideways. A sharp, brutal tug yanked me backward by my hair. The world jerked violently as his other hand pulled a knife from his jacket, a thin blade that gleamed under the streetlight. Don't scream or yell or I'll kill you, he hissed close to my ear. The cold metal pressed against my throat, and my pulse pounded louder than the silence around us. I swallowed my panic, nodded slowly, keeping my face calm. Good, he said. Now we're going to New Mexico. Don't do anything stupid or I'll cover your car's interior with your blood. The knife stayed pressed to my neck, unyielding and ice cold. My mind raced. What the hell did he want? Why me? I reminded myself to breathe. Marines or not, fear still sank its claws deep. How do you want to do this? I asked, voice low but steady. Directions or... He eased his grip just enough so I could breathe easier, though the knife stayed in place. Use your GPS. Shut up. Hands shaking, I pulled out my phone and launched the Maps app. Where exactly in New Mexico? I asked. He laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. You just drive. I swallowed, took a deep breath, and started the car. Every mile felt heavier, my nerves fraying with every passing second. At a red light near the edge of town, I caught sight of a Ford Ranger barreling down a side road. My mind screamed. This could be my chance. When I slammed the gas, my car lunged forward, heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. The Ford Ranger was speeding toward the intersection on the side road, and for a split second, I thought maybe help had arrived. The man's grip on my hair loosened, startled by my sudden move. I seized the moment, sliding my hand under his wrist, twisting sharply. The knife clattered onto the steering wheel, and he cursed, stumbling backward into the shadows. Without thinking twice, I slammed the door shut, locked it, and hit the horn in rapid blasts, hoping to attract attention. The Ford Ranger screeched to a stop beside me, and the driver, a middle-aged man with a rough face and concerned eyes, asked, "What's going on? You okay?" I barely managed to say, "Don't let him get away." The man glanced around, but the dark figure was gone. I kept my doors locked and called 911 immediately, voice shaking as I explained what happened. The dispatcher was calm but urgent, promising police were on their way. When the officers arrived, they took my statement, examined the area, but found no trace of the attacker. I gave them every detail: the knife, the voice, the threats. They told me to stay vigilant, offered to send a patrol car by my apartment during the night. The adrenaline that had kept me alive faded fast, replaced by a crushing exhaustion and a flood of shaken emotions. I couldn't sleep. Every creak in my apartment made me jump. I started locking every door and window, even the ones that usually stayed open. I bought a gun permit and invested in self-defense classes, but it wasn't the training or the weapons that mattered the most anymore. It was the constant tension in my chest, the way my mind replayed those moments again and again. I found myself watching the shadows outside my windows, jumping at the slightest noise. Work became harder. At the diner, I was jumpy and distracted, sometimes breaking down in the bathroom stalls. The warehouse felt less like a job and more like a trap. I knew that getting over it advice was bullshit. You don't just move on when something like that happens. You adapt. I started talking to a therapist, someone who helped me put words to the fear, the anger, and the helplessness. Months passed. The man never showed up again. The police never found him. I never stopped carrying my gun or knives, but I also learned to carry something else: awareness and a cautious peace. Fear hadn't broken me, but it had changed me. I still drive past that gas station, sometimes glancing toward the shadows, wondering if I'll see him again. But I don't freeze anymore. I breathe, I think, and I keep moving. I never thought a simple road trip would turn into the most terrifying night of my life. But that's exactly what happened. My name is Sami Al-Harbi. I'm 24 years old, and I've always loved exploring the vast landscapes of Saudi Arabia. From the bustling streets of Riyadh to the peaceful deserts near Al Ula, I've always felt that traveling made me come alive. That winter day, I was restless and craving something different, a break from the usual routine of my city life. I decided to drive north, about 650 kilometers from my home in Dammam, to visit the small town of Al Juf. It was about 2:45 p.m. when I started. The winter sun was still high, but I knew it wouldn't last long. Winters here get dark early. The drive was peaceful at first. The road stretched endlessly, the desert slowly giving way to rocky hills and sparse greenery. I was driving alone, the car radio playing soft Arabic tunes that I found soothing. By 6:45 p.m., the sky was starting to dim, and the cold air seeped in through the windows. About 50 kilometers outside Al Juf, hunger hit me hard. I hadn't eaten since morning, and the idea of stopping at a gas station crossed my mind. I checked the GPS for the nearest station and saw a small, unnamed one just a few kilometers ahead. It was a little off the main highway, and the reviews were non-existent, which should have been my first warning. When I pulled in around 7:05 p.m., the gas station was almost deserted. The flickering yellow sign was barely lit, and the entire place looked like it hadn't been updated since the early 90s. The building's paint was peeling, and the pavement was cracked and stained with old oil spills. I parked my car and took a deep breath before stepping inside the convenience store. The fluorescent lights inside buzzed annoyingly, casting harsh shadows over the dusty shelves. The smell was a strange mixture of old cigarettes, gasoline, and something else, something metallic. Behind the counter stood a man who looked tired and worn. He was in his late 40s, his beard patchy and gray, and his eyes tired but alert. His name tag read Hassan. When I asked him about the restroom, he nodded toward the back. Just down that hallway. It's clean enough, he said, his voice rough but polite. I nodded and headed toward the bathroom, my stomach growling louder. As I walked past the dimly lit hallway, something made me pause. From the bathroom area, I heard a sudden, sharp scream, a desperate, chilling sound that froze my blood. I stopped dead, my heart pounding. For a moment, I thought it might be my imagination. Then I heard it again, a wet, heavy thud followed by silence. Curious and alarmed, I peeked cautiously around the corner and saw something I can never forget. A body was being thrown out of one of the bathroom stalls. It was covered in blood, and the lifeless form lay twisted on the floor. Before I could react, a man stepped out. He looked rough, mid-30s, face marred with deep scars and dark bruises. His clothes were filthy, ripped, stained with dirt and what looked like dried blood. A long, rusty knife was partially visible in his coat pocket. He glanced sharply around, his eyes locking on mine for a terrifying moment. I ducked behind a nearby pillar, my breath shallow, heart hammering in my chest. He started dragging the body toward a small, decrepit shed behind the gas station. It was obvious he was trying to hide whatever he had done. Frozen in fear, I tried to make myself as small as possible. The cold night air bit at my skin, but I couldn't move. My mind screamed at me to run, but my legs refused. Suddenly, he turned toward the parking lot. I held my breath, praying he wouldn't see my car. For a moment, he walked toward it, his eyes scanning every shadow. I felt like my life depended on not making a sound. After what felt like hours, he finally turned away and disappeared behind the shed. I didn't hesitate. I sprinted to my car, fumbling with the keys. The engine roared to life, and I slammed my foot on the gas, tires squealing as I sped down the empty highway. It was only after I was miles away that I allowed myself to breathe properly. I spotted a mosque lit up in the distance and pulled over, running inside like a man possessed. The imam, a kind-faced man named Sheikh Abdullah, welcomed me without question. After hearing my frantic story, he handed me a bottle of water and urged me to call the police. Within minutes, uniformed officers arrived and took my statement seriously. They went back to the gas station to investigate. Sitting in that mosque, surrounded by the calm chants of prayer, I realized how close I had come to death. An hour later, the police returned. The man I saw was arrested, a criminal who had been hiding there for years, responsible for numerous disappearances linked to that isolated gas station. The most chilling detail? His own family, his wife and parents, had been found murdered in that very bathroom years ago. He had been living in the shadows, using the gas station bathroom as his twisted hunting ground, dragging victims to the shed behind to hide their bodies. I was lucky. Had I ignored my instincts and walked into that bathroom like any normal traveler, I might be another name on the list. Now, I'm here to say, always trust your gut. Stay alert. Because sometimes the scariest monsters don't lurk in the dark forests or abandoned houses. They hide in places you least expect. I never liked night drives, not because of the dark or the quiet or even the loneliness, though all of that had a weight to it. It was more the feeling that no one was watching out for you once the sun went down, that you could disappear into the black behind your headlights and nobody would know until the next morning, if they ever knew at all. 3 years ago, I was 18, still figuring out who I was and what counted as normal fear versus something I should actually listen to. My boyfriend at the time, Ryan, worked the night shift at a gas station on the edge of a declining industrial city in South Dakota, the kind of place where people either worked nights or never worked again. We lived in an apartment above a shut-down pawn shop 2 blocks off the main drag, next to a broken-down strip mall that hadn't seen a tenant since the 2000s. The gas station, a 24-hour Quick Mart, sat across from a U-Haul lot and a concrete mixing plant. After sundown, the whole area looked like a forgotten corner of a map, streetlights buzzing over cracked pavement, neon signs blinking like dying bugs. It was a weird town, not big enough to have a proper downtown, but big enough for crime to get buried under someone else's problem. The kind of town where you double check your car doors even in broad daylight, and the police only show up if there's blood on the sidewalk. Ryan didn't have a car back then. I drove him to and from work because the idea of him walking that stretch alone, especially past the freight yards, was enough to keep me up at night. I didn't mind the drives. Gave me an excuse to stay out late without having to explain it to anyone. Sometimes, if the shift was slow, I'd come early and hang out with him for a bit. Just sit in the back by the stockroom, sip a cold soda, trade dumb inside jokes. He'd show me weird customer receipts or tell me about the old man who bought scratchers in bulk and muttered to himself the whole time. That night, early October, the air had that tight chill that makes your skin prickle. I remember because I'd forgotten my hoodie and had to grab one of Ryan's extras from the back seat, some oversized crew neck from high school that still smelled faintly like engine oil and cinnamon gum. I parked my car on the side of the building like always. The Quick Mart had 3 security cameras, all facing forward, so the side lot, meant mostly for deliveries, was a blind spot. That night it was just me and a white Chevy pickup a few spots down, fairly new, clean, not lifted like most of the local trucks. Its engine wasn't running, and its headlights were off. I didn't think anything of it until I stepped out. He was leaning against the side of the truck like he'd been waiting there a while. Late 30s, maybe early 40s. White guy. Tall, but not unusually so. Wearing jeans and a long-sleeve flannel. No jacket, despite the cold. His face was clean-shaven, and there was something sterile about him. Too neat for a guy just idling outside a gas station at midnight. I had to walk past him to get to the front doors. I figured he'd nod or ignore me. Instead, he stepped partially into my path. "Hey," he said in a voice that tried to sound casual. I slowed. Not stopped, just slowed. "Yeah? My truck won't start," he said. "You know anything about engines?" I forced a polite smile. "Not really, sorry." "You sure?" he asked. "Could really use a hand. Battery might be dead or something." I motioned toward the gas station. "My boyfriend's inside. He might know more." His expression changed, just slightly. A flicker, like a glitch in a video. "Boyfriend, huh?" "Yeah." I tried to move past him again. He shifted, not blocking me directly, but enough to make it awkward, like I'd have to brush his arm to get by. "It'll just take a second," he said, voice low now. "Just need someone to look under the hood while I try the ignition." "I really can't help you," I said, a little firmer this time. "I'm not good with cars, and I'm cold." He chuckled, though it didn't sound like he found anything funny. Didn't think it took much skill to stand still. That made something go tight in my chest. It wasn't just what he said, it was how he said it, like he wasn't actually asking for help. like he was watching how far he could push before I flinched. I didn't flinch, but I did walk, fast, past him and toward the entrance, not looking back. Inside, the store was nearly empty. Ryan was behind the counter counting the till. He looked up and smiled like always, but that faded when he saw my face. "Everything okay?" he asked, stepping out from behind the register. "There's a guy by a white pickup out back," I said under my breath. "Says his truck won't start. He's acting weird." Ryan didn't ask questions, just grabbed his jacket and came outside with me. But by the time we got there, the pickup was gone, not slowly easing down the road, gone. Tires screeched faintly in the distance, fading fast. We stood there in the cold, watching taillights disappear down the empty stretch of industrial road. Ryan rubbed his hands together, eyes narrowed. "You didn't go near it, right?" Number I said no, and kept walking. Good. The way he said it stuck with me. Not smart, not thanks for being careful, just good. Like he knew something I didn't. I never saw the guy again. We told Ryan's manager the next day. She laughed and said maybe he was just drunk or confused. "This town's full of weirdos," she added, rolling her eyes. But I know what I felt. That guy didn't need help. That truck started just fine. He was waiting in the blind spot, waiting for someone who wouldn't ask too many questions, someone who'd walk just a little too close. A week after that night, I started noticing things. It began small. A white pickup, same model, parked across from our apartment. Never stayed long. Maybe an hour, then gone. Different plates every time, or none that I could see from our window. Then came the hang-up calls. Always after midnight. Always silent. One night I went to the grocery store alone and saw that same truck idling near the exit of the lot. I froze, gripping my keys like a weapon. The second I ducked back into the store, it peeled out again. I started documenting everything. Dates, times, locations. I didn't want to be paranoid. I wanted to be prepared. Ryan was skeptical at first. Thought maybe I was just shaken from the gas station thing. But after he saw the truck parked a block from his work again, he changed his tune. "Maybe we should call someone," he said. "Who?" I snapped. "The cops? They'll say he's just running errands." But we called anyway. They said exactly that. "No laws being broken," the officer told us. "If you see him trespassing or threatening you directly, let us know. Until then, not much we can do." So we got cameras, tiny ones, hidden by the windows, one facing the street, another by the stairs. The first week, nothing. The second, motion detected at 2:13 a.m. A tall figure walking past the building, paused, looked up at our window, then gone. That night, I didn't sleep. Neither did Ryan. We sat up with the lights off, staring at the shadows, waiting. The night it came to a head, Ryan was off. I was alone. He'd gone to visit his sister 2 hours away, and I stayed behind because I had an early shift the next morning. I locked up tight, triple-checked the windows, kept the hallway light on. At 3:07 a.m., the motion sensor chimed again. I crept to the window, pulled the curtain back an inch. There he was, white truck, parked across the street, lights off. And then the driver's side door opened. He didn't walk toward the building this time. He just stood there, looking up at me. He just stood there, looking up at me. I stepped back from the window like it burned me. My chest was tight, hands shaking. I didn't know what to do. Call the police again? Turn off the lights? Run? Number. He hadn't done anything, not technically, but he was escalating. That much I knew. I crawled to the side table and grabbed my phone, heart hammering, fingers slippery with sweat. 911. I whispered, "There's a man outside my apartment. He's been following me for weeks." The dispatcher's voice was calm, too calm. "Is he armed?" "I don't know. He's just standing there. But he's been here before." "Has he made any threats?" "No," I snapped. He's watching me. He's parked outside in a white truck. He's been following me. This isn't the first time. Okay, officers are en route. Stay on the line. I didn't hear the rest. I was too focused on the window. I crawled back, just enough to peek. He was gone. The truck was still there. Door open, engine off. But he wasn't in it, or around it. That was worse. Much worse. I ducked, moved away from the window completely. The apartment felt smaller by the second. Every wall too thin, every lock too breakable. I grabbed the baseball bat from under the couch, the one Ryan insisted we keep, just in case. I didn't hear footsteps, but I heard the back staircase creak, slow, deliberate. My throat dried up. Then the sound stopped. Silence, for a moment. And then a knock, not on the front door, on the window. My stomach dropped. I didn't scream. I couldn't. The curtain shifted just slightly. A shadow passed behind it, too close. He was trying to see in. And I'd been standing right in the glow of the hallway light. I backed into the kitchen, turned off every light I could, tried to stay hidden while still watching every angle. The knocking stopped. Then came the jiggle of the front doorknob. I whispered to the dispatcher, "He's at the door. He's trying to get in. I need you to stay calm. Officers are close. 2 minutes out." I didn't know if I had 2 minutes. The knob jiggled again. A low, almost thoughtful rattling. Not rushed, like he was trying to gauge how solid it was. Like he had time. Like he knew no one else was coming. And then, a voice. "I know you're in there." I froze. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said. "Just want to talk. You're making this into something it doesn't have to be." That voice. It wasn't angry. It wasn't pleading. It was casual, measured, controlled. And that terrified me most. The next 30 seconds felt like a lifetime. I stayed behind the fridge, clutching the bat with both hands, waiting to hear glass shatter. But it never did. Instead, a new sound. Sirens. They didn't stop down the street or cruise past like usual. They pulled up right in front. Flashing blue lights lit up the living room like a storm. Heavy boots stomped the stairs, shouted commands. I didn't dare move until I heard them say my name. They didn't catch him. By the time the cops arrived, he was gone. Vanished into one of the alleys behind the pawn shop. Left the truck. Left the driver's side door open like bait. The truck was stolen, of course. Plates traced to a different county. Nothing inside. No prints they could lift. I gave my full report. Showed them the camera footage, the phone logs, my notes. They nodded. Promised to keep an eye on the area. Then they left, and I was alone again. Ryan moved back in the next morning. He didn't go back to his sister's. He didn't go to work. For 3 weeks, he stayed with me every night, sleeping by the front door with that same baseball bat. But the man never came back. We moved a month later. Left that apartment, that town, everything. I still don't know who he was, what he wanted, why he chose me. All I know is he wasn't drunk. He wasn't confused. He was looking for someone, and he thought for a while that someone was me. Sometimes when I drive late at night, when the roads are empty and the sky is pitch black, I still think about that pickup. Those eyes staring up at my window, not angry, not curious, just calculating, like he was already building the next plan for the next girl in the next town. And I wonder if she'll know how close the danger is before it's too late. Because I almost didn't.
A lot has changed on Route 66 in the last 100 years, but its soul remains the same. Cooling off, hidden treasures, a good night's sleep, and the freedom of the open road. destination.
I wasn't supposed to leave that late. Originally, the plan had been to hit the road by 10 a.m., maybe even earlier. The company was relocating the last of its gear from our old site in Wyoming to the main office here in Indiana. Most of the time I flew, just a quick connecting flight, shake some hands and bounce. But now and then, we had bigger items, stuff that couldn't be boxed and shipped. I'd driven out twice before, once in a Sprinter van and once with an empty trailer, and both times I enjoyed the solitude. That long stretch of highway through Nebraska, quiet, meditative, gave me time to think. So, when the office asked for a volunteer to drive one of the last runs, a used 20-foot box truck we'd picked up cheap from a liquidation, I said sure. There was a piece to driving alone at night, or so I thought. That piece was gone now. But let me start at the beginning. The morning I was supposed to leave, we had a delay. The printer, a massive industrial copy machine from the old office, was stuck at a depot 2 towns over. It didn't arrive until after 2:30 p.m., and by the time it was loaded and secured in the back of the truck, it was pushing 4 p.m. I considered going anyway, but I've driven through rush hour traffic in Gary before. No thanks. I decided to wait until just after 5 o'clock to leave. That decision might have saved my life, or maybe it got me noticed. I've never been sure. By the time I merged onto Interstate 80 West, the sky was already bruising up with twilight. The box truck's cabin smelled faintly of dust, diesel, and old vinyl. It had that used truck feel, everything rattled, the radio was picky, and the AC only worked if I thumped the console twice. But it moved, and I knew the route like the back of my hand. The first couple of hours went fine. I made my usual stops: coffee, bathroom, cheap fast food. As the city lights faded behind me and the radio gave way to static, I flicked it off and rode in silence. Eventually, I hit that familiar stretch of road in northern Iowa. 2-lane, dark, and forgotten. Nothing but trees, fields, and the occasional exit sign you'd miss if you blinked. I'd been through it before, but it never stopped feeling haunted. Not by ghosts exactly, just by emptiness. It was the kind of place you could disappear into and no one would know. Around 12:30 a.m., I pulled into a rest stop I'd used a couple of times. There was a long, arched lamp casting yellow light across the lot, a single vending machine, a dingy restroom building, and a couple of benches. Empty, except for a pickup truck parked at the far end. I didn't think much of it. I went to the restroom, washed my face, and tried to shake the creeping exhaustion from behind my eyes. I thought about maybe just climbing into the back of the truck and sleeping for a couple of hours, but something told me to press on. When I stepped out, that pickup truck was parked right next to mine now, close enough to ding my door. A guy stood between the vehicles. He looked to be in his late 40s or early 50s, thin, tall, wiry, dressed in jeans, a flannel shirt, and a ball cap. Nothing outwardly strange, but something about his stillness made me pause. "Hey," he said casually. "That your truck?" "Yeah," I replied. He nodded, then tilted his head, looking at the back. "You having trouble with it or anything? Looked like you were checking something earlier." "No," I said flatly. "Just taking a break." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Just wondering. Sometimes those old rigs have electrical quirks. Lights, brakes, you know." I gave him a tight smile, didn't answer, and got into my truck. I locked the doors. My gut told me something was off. He didn't follow. Just stood there for a beat too long, then slowly walked back to his truck. I drove off. The next stretch was dead quiet. Pitch black except for the glow of the moon and my headlights. No traffic. Just the occasional road sign or glint of an animal's eyes in the ditch. Then something happened. Every light in the truck died at once. No headlights. No dash lights. Even the little glowing symbols on the radio and AC cut out. Total darkness. My first thought was the battery, or maybe a blown fuse, but the engine was still running. I tapped the brakes. No brake lights behind me, just void. I didn't panic. Not right away. I pulled over slowly, my heart thudding. I sat for a moment, gripping the steering wheel. Then, with a sudden burst of frustration, I slammed my fist against the dashboard. Everything came back to life. Lights, gauges, the hum of the AC fan. It was like nothing had happened. My stomach twisted. I wasn't superstitious, but I'm not stupid either. Something was wrong. The timing was too perfect. That guy back at the rest stop, he'd mentioned electrical quirks. Why would a stranger say something that specific unless he knew? I didn't stop again. I drove with one eye on the road and one eye on my rearview mirror. The fear was creeping up from my gut into my throat. I remembered a 24-hour gas station about 10 miles ahead, just over the county line in a town called Avery. I'd stopped there before. Familiar. I rolled into the station around 1:30 a.m., pulled up to a pump, and jumped out. The air was cold. I started fueling up and trying to calm down. Then I saw the pickup truck. Same one from earlier. Same dented bumper. Same faded red paint. It pulled up on the street outside the station, engine idling. The driver didn't get out, just sat there, watching. I felt ice trickle down my spine. I didn't finish pumping. I left the handle in and walked quickly toward the front of the gas station. Just as I was nearing the door, a sheriff's cruiser pulled into the lot. 2 deputies inside, probably just grabbing coffee or doing a routine check. I waved. They stepped out, and I smiled like I wasn't trying to hold my guts in place. Evening, I said. Hey, quick question. Is the road west of here in decent shape? I've got a long drive and don't want to hit any closures. One of the deputies, a woman, nodded. Should be fine. Weather's clear. I motioned over my shoulder. Just saw someone acting strange back there. Same truck's been behind me for a while. Maybe it's nothing. The other deputy looked down the road. The pickup peeled away. Fast. They offered to escort me to the edge of the county line, but I declined. I told them I was probably just tired and paranoid. They nodded, but I could see the woman deputy didn't quite buy it. I got back into the truck, now almost trembling. My hands wouldn't stay still. I drove another 20 minutes before I saw a sign for a motel, an old 2-story place just off the road. I didn't care if it was sketchy. I pulled in, parked under the only working light, and went straight to the front desk. The clerk barely looked up. I paid in cash, grabbed the key, and double-locked my room. I didn't sleep. Not really. I kept expecting to hear a knock or a window breaking. But the night passed. Nothing happened. The next morning, under the glare of the sun, the world felt normal again. Almost. When I made it to our old office in Wyoming, I handed off the keys and told them to have the truck looked at. I didn't go into the details, just said the lights had cut out mid-drive and come back randomly. They later called and said the mechanic found nothing wrong. Battery was solid. Wiring was fine. No shorts, no faults, no corrosion. But I knew. Deep down, I knew. That man had done something. I don't know if he rigged the truck to disable. Maybe something temporary, just enough to make me pull over on a dark stretch of highway. Maybe he was planning to follow me, wait until I stopped, and then... What? Rob me? Kill me? I don't know. But I've never made that drive again, and I never will. Sometimes I wonder how many people he's done that to. How many late-night travelers didn't get lucky, didn't find a cop, didn't make it to a motel. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't slammed my fist on the dash, or if I just stayed asleep in the back of that truck at the rest stop. But most of all, I wonder what he was waiting for, because I think he had a plan, and I think next time he'll finish it. It was supposed to be just a quick weekend escape, not some story I'd still be whispering about 35 years later, wondering if we were supposed to make it out of that field at all. Back in the fall of 1987, I was stationed at Hawthorne Air Base, a mid-size Air Force installation on the outskirts of Marion, Nebraska. The military had brought people from all over the country, but I had found two kindred spirits in my roommate, Renee, and a girl from another squadron, Katie. We were young, all just barely 20, and each of us clung to our tiny freedoms when off duty like it was oxygen. Renee and I were both black, city girls used to loud trains and late-night diners. Katie was white, born and raised in rural Indiana. What brought us together was a mix of stubbornness and humor, and the fact that all three of us had names people constantly misspelled. We joked we were the E sisters, Tracy with an E, me, Renee with double E, and Katie with an I. No one ever believed us when we introduced ourselves, and we leaned into that, spinning stories and watching people's confused reactions with glee. That weekend, we just wanted out of uniforms, out of drills, out of cold chow hall food. So we packed up Katie's beat-up blue Cutlass Supreme and decided to head to Caraway, a larger city about 3 hours south, just over the state line in Missouri. We figured we'd catch a movie, eat real food, and maybe flirt a little, just teenage girl things. The road was clear, the weather perfect, and our spirits were high. We had the windows down, music up, and were singing along to Whitney Houston's So Emotional like it was the national anthem. Katie was driving, and, true to her nickname, Leadfoot Katie, we were flying down Highway 75 well over the limit. Then the red and blue lights lit up behind us, and everything changed. Katie pulled over without hesitation, cursing softly under her breath but not really worried. Probably just a speeding ticket, she said, reaching for her wallet and registration. Renee and I quieted, sitting up straighter. A state trooper walked up slowly, a towering figure in the side mirror. He didn't look particularly old, maybe mid-40s, with pale skin and a mustache so thick it looked cartoonish. His uniform was spotless, sunglasses still on despite the late afternoon light fading. He didn't say hello, didn't ask for Katie's license. He looked past her at me and Renee, his expression unreadable. Then he said, "You three, follow me. Don't try anything stupid, or this won't end with just a ticket." He turned and walked back to his patrol car. We stared at each other in silence. "What the hell?" Renee whispered. Katie looked stunned. "Why didn't he just... I mean, what did I even do?"
Hey, son, grab the burgers, the grill's ready. Sorry, Dad, hamburgers in the fridge. Calm down. We're here in this. Shop online. Get $30 off your first online order. Find the same prices, deals, and more.
Didn't even notice until we were already on it. A single battered sign said private road, no outlet. Everything in me screamed that this wasn't protocol, that something was wrong. But what could we do? He was a cop, and we were three girls in a strange state, in a stranger place. The paved road turned to gravel, then gravel turned to dirt. Cornfields rose on either side, the golden stalks brushing against the wind like a warning. It was nearly dusk, the sky bleeding orange behind us. We stopped speaking. Our joy turned into cold, creeping fear. When he finally stopped, it was in front of a dilapidated barn tucked into a clearing. It looked like it had been abandoned decades ago, except it wasn't, because 5 men came out, all armed, all watching us. They didn't say anything, just stood beside the barn, some holding shotguns, others leaning against the rotting wooden beams like they were expecting company. One of them spat into the dirt, Another laughed, dry and low. Katie's hand hovered over the gear shift, but she didn't move. The officer walked back to the car and tapped on her window. Step out. Now. Katie obeyed. I could see her legs trembling as she got out. He said something quietly, gestured toward his cruiser, and she walked stiffly over to it. He opened the passenger door and she got in. Then he walked over to Renee's side of the car and stood silently, looking in at us through the glass. I could feel Renee's grip tightening on my arm. Neither of us said a word. Behind him, the men from the barn didn't move, didn't speak, but I felt the weight of their eyes like knives. Minutes passed. Katie came running. Tears were streaming down her face as she flung open the driver's door, jumped in, and slammed it shut. Don't say anything, she whispered, shaking violently. Just hold on. The officer was walking back slowly, his boots crunching on the dirt. He leaned in. Today, George Foreman.
Rest of the team and with us will wait. Why should I say more?
You say more.
Let's make it.
It's
You interrupt me in the live, in the walk, and
Right
here.
when you
You-
lady.
And I don't know. I'm not the medical expert, but
We have the case number 7312, Sarah Volpe versus Tanya Walker. Lady, can you please come to the podium? Ms. Volpe, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, ma'am, it shows here that you sued because of the amount of $20,000 in damages.
yes, it's correct. But it's right now.
Oh, I'm
Say. So first of all, thank you so much for having me here. So I'm here today because of my work there. Exactly. And not to keep unnecessary pressure on me and the rest of the team and with us will wait. And
sorry. What?
to make us look easy. So we work in this company. I want to explain everything. I'm sorry. I know it sounds crazy, but I want to explain myself
It's definitely sounding different from anything I've ever heard.
because you didn't hear the culture.
Please, enlighten me.
So we work in the sales company where we sell the solar panels, okay?
Okay.
And we work there for 1 year and 6 months. And we have the best team. We always been supportive. We never have anything. Like I love to talk to myself. And Tatiana just recently joined our team, right? So like 3, 4 months. And after she appears, everything is changed. Like seriously. So we work from 9 to 5, okay? So Tatiana would come at work at 8:30, already sitting at 8:45 as they come to the coffee. And and all is fine. And by the way, I don't drink coffee, but every my coffee lifestyle. She drinks all the coffee all the time, so they don't even have the coffee for themselves.
Okay.
Okay, so now she would volunteer for every extra job, and actually she would stay at 6 p.m., 7 p.m., and now our bosses and our management accept us to work harder. So, and on top of this, I supposed to work harder, stay longer, and make less money. And let me explain it. So we actually receive the warm transfer calls. This is like weeks, okay? So she took up every single phone call. I have no chance to pick up it. So now it's actually affecting my financial situation and everything. So, and on top of this, I received the email 3 days ago with Josh, like my management, he actually tells me, Diana, now you're on the backup calls because wherever Tatiana should have the time to pick up, then I'm gonna pick up. So it's actually make less chance for me to do the job. And I understand Tatiana maybe she doesn't have her own life, but like I have my own life, you know?
Have you ever been tested for HIV before? Let me tell you a little bit about HIV. HIV is a virus that can impact anyone. The test itself will take about maybe 5 minutes. We go through it together. No matter what the result is, whether it's HIV negative or positive, we'll be here for you to navigate you in the direction that you go. Dad, I can't kill dragons, but you will. Oh, you something stupid. There's something else on the island. You don't know what you're up against. June 13th. Get tickets now.
I mean, I'm sorry. And
I'm sorry. I don't mean to laugh at you, bad, but I want to make sure I'm hearing this correctly. Basically, what you're saying is that since she showed up at the job, and you said she's been there for
three, 4 months.
3 to 4 months,
Everything changed.
everything changed
Yes.
because of her work pattern.
Yes, but she created for us this calendars that we couldn't keep, up with the rest of the team. Like I literally like supposed to be stay late. I come.
back. I'm trying to be a little bit more consistent, you know. Why didn't I go live earlier? Chat. I was vlogging today. That's why I didn't go live. Oh, chat, and I surprised my mom with a gift today. I don't usually talk about too much personal stuff on here, but you know, we're gonna get a little serious, you know. My sister recently passed away. It's been a couple months, and my mom, you know, is dealing with grief and just dealing with your child passing away. You know, or anybody close to you, or somebody passing away, that could really affect the person, you know. So my sister, she used to have this bear, like a teddy bear, like stuffed to her stuffed animal. So I went and got the same one, so I could give it to my mom, you know, like just so she could have like something. So I surprised her with that today, you know. Yeah, mind you, I've given my mom like thousands of dollars. I bought her jewelry before. I bought her designer bags, but the gift I gave today, that was like the most sentimental and like the most important gift to her. And I could just tell, you know, she was like surprised, she was shocked, she was happy that I got her that. Today was a great day. You know, surprised by my dukes, my mom, you know. Tell, I look up to my mom, you know. My mom is she been through a lot of stuff. She worked really hard, you know. And I've seen my mom struggle when I was little. I've seen her work multiple jobs just to survive. And I've literally seen my mom like struggling, bro, and just working like when I was little. So that's why I work very, very hard because my mom taught me how to do it. I've seen her do it. You know, so I'm always going to work hard. That's why I get that from her. Once I make it, chat, I'm gonna make sure my mom is good, bro, forever. She's in a way, way better spot now. But back then when I was little, man, I could see my mom like struggling, bro. She used to work like 3, 4 jobs. I come from nothing, bro. Like I swear I come from nothing. So like I'm telling you, like we would have to switch like homes, bro, like apartments, like back to back to back, bro. So like we was really on like survival mode, bro. When I was little. Shout out my dudes, you know. So I surprised her with that gift, and you know, it felt good to give her that gift. I want to do more. I want to do more for my people. I want to do more for my family. I don't just want to do that for myself. I don't want to tell like you know, I don't want to. I want to work hard so my people can be comfortable in life. And, you know, I want to do that so my wife in the future doesn't have to work or my kids don't have to struggle. Like, I'm gonna spoil my daughter and I'm gonna make sure my son is better than me, you know, in the future. Whenever I do have kids and a big family, God will. You know, when people
What's the difference between Sonny and Joshua Pierce?
But that's not why we're here today. We are actually here, y'all, to force Lorenzo to work out. Now, I had to drag him out his home to get him over here. And he's actually afraid of the gym. Dude, what are you doing, bro? Come on, bro, let's work out. Dude, come on. You have to work out. Dude, nah, chill. Lorenzo. Nah, that, bro.
Stop. Lorenzo, come here, dude. Bro, what are you doing? Stop. Bro, what are you doing? We're gonna start with some cardio. Dude, not dead ass. You had look. You need to start working out, bro. You really need to start working out.
I don't.
Yes, you do. We're gonna change you, big boy. All right. Why are you sweating? Get on this one. If you do this workout, I'll get you something to eat. It's like really good. Come on, you good?
Almost done.
All right, just keep running. Do this with your yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's my big boy. No holding the thing. Just run. Yeah, don't think about it. You want Mickey D's? You want some McDonald's? I got you. No, bro, take it serious. Chat. He has to start working out. He's getting too big. He's literally getting big, bro. Day by day. Chat. Why did you stop? All right, so lower the thing down. You have to run at least a couple miles. All right, go start. No more, no breaks, bro. Get that. No breaks. Hey, look, I'll run with you. Look, I'm running with you, bro. Yes. Look, I'm running with you. I'm running with you, big boy. That's did I make you work out? Come on. Come on, you got this. You got this. You got this. Big boy, think of a Big Mac while you're running. Act like you're chasing that Big Mac. You got this. We go in the pool after this too. Ah, ah, you got this. Say hey viewers. Say hey chat. Say chat. I love you. Look at chat. The chat wanted you to run, bro. Huh? What you just said? Oh. You can't even. You can't even to man. You want to do?
Why are you looking at me like that?
That's your underarm here. Oh, you're ridiculous. You don't shake that. You like that? Your hair on your arm is longer than my jets. That's not cute. That's not girly like, you know? That's like a gorilla. You like gorilla have hair everywhere. Like a gorilla, look.
So you calling me a gorilla?
At Hamptonstone, we believe transformation starts with care. It's go time, and you've earned it.
It's really hot. No, I was trying to take my sweater off.
What you do? Oh my God, bro. What's on your arm? What's on your arm? That's a here? That's an underarm here?
I mean, ridiculous. You don't ship that. You like that?
No.
Why you don't ship it?
I'm not.
Your hair on the arm is longer than my jeans.
No, it's not.
Yes, it
Stop
is.
saying it.
I mean, that's ridiculous. London, what about London?
Why are you okay? Why are you looking at me like that?
You need to cut that with a scissors or something. That's ridiculous, Mom.
No, it's not.
You like it? Okay, then. So why
I
you
don't
cut
really,
it?
I don't really care about it.
London, you okay showing it?
I gotta
Hey,
go.
look
Mom
over
is in
here.
the front now.
Hey, even to the back you're showing. This is ridiculous, babe. You know, London armpit hair is that long? She was longer than my jeans. Look, even showing to the back. That's disgusting,
That's
babe.
gross. No
That's
way.
really gross. You don't cut your hair?
It's not that bad.
Lana, you like that? You like that? You like your hair like that? Look, it's even showing when even your arm clothes is showing. Go inside. Go shave, Mom. Please, you can't go inside like that. Let's keep it straight on there. Why you can't shave? Babe, why she can't shave? Why she can't shave? Well, that's too grown. That under here, the underarm here is too grown. It's gross. She have to shave. Lana, no to the mom, boy, you can't shave. That's ridiculous. You want a girl to look at that shave? Babe, are you serious? You wanted to look at that? You know underarm was like that? So wait, okay with that. Lana, go inside and shave. Go cut with scissors or something. Don't let it show. Keep your arm down like this. This is ridiculous.
Are you ashamed?
It's gross, London. It's gross.
Mom is.
Why is it under him so long and puffy? Get it. Go shave. Go shave.
Mom,
Mama.
snap.
Wait for her, babe. Go help her shave with her mom. Take her and go shave her. London, go. Go. Hey, she got to shave, baby. Alright, please sit down. Please sit down. Please sit down.
Probably not for her, but if that was her, I would be like, I would go in her house and
That's ridiculous, babe. You need to chop that off with it. Chop it off. Chop those ear off. That's not cute. That's not girly like, you know? That's like a gorilla. You like gorilla have an ear everywhere. Like a gorilla look.
So you call me a gorilla?
I'm not calling you.
Thanks.
You want to look like a gorilla? It's like you want to look like a gorilla. Look at this is weird. It's like you want to look like a gorilla for real to carry yourself decent in life, mama.
I'm never gonna shave.
You like that?
Right.
What is that?